Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. This is a special Father's Day edition. So happy Father's Day to all you guys out there. Hope you guys are enjoying your day. And for this special episode, I wanted to have a couple dads on to talk about not only the things that they're doing, but also the chores of a single dad and how he's living his life as a single dad and trying to be intent with his kids as much as possible. So I'm actually joined by two good friends of mine, Alex and Ollie, have joined me on Dad Up, and I just want to say a big welcome to both of them. Thank you guys for joining me today, and happy Father's Day.
Happy
Hello,
Father's
Joe.
Day.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into a little bit of a backstory about you guys. I'll go with I'll start off with Alex, but Alex, for my listeners who may not know about who you are and all that, let's talk a little bit about kind of how you grew up and then what you're doing now. And obviously, this is a dad podcast, so I want to talk about your kids too.
Yeah. So my name is Alex deGolia. I currently live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and have been here for 15 years, but originally from Montana, born in Livingston, Montana, grew up in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. My parents were park rangers, and then we moved to Dillon, Montana. So grew up in Southwest Montana. My parents were always involved and together, or I guess together up until I was in fifth grade and divorced, and I grew up in a kind of a shared custody home in Dillon, and then graduated high school and bounced around for a little bit, lived in Honolulu, Hawaii, and then to Coeur d'Alene, and then to Ukiah, California, and then now here in Coeur d'Alene. And I am a father of one daughter. She is 14. She'll be 15 on July 1st. Her name is Integrity, but her nickname is Kiwi. So, um, you know, absolutely privileged and very excited to be a father, and she's one of my best friends. She was born when I was 20, and 2 days later I turned 21, so we've kind of grown up together.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. So you've kind of been all over the place. Wow. We'll talk about your daughter, but I want to give Ollie a chance to introduce himself. So Ollie, thank you for joining me, my friend, and let's hear a
Sure.
little bit about you and your kids.
Yep. My name's Ali Sanabria. I've been in banking about 30 years. I grew up in Central America, Nicaragua. Came here when I was 12. My mother opened up her business 6 months after we got here, which was pretty amazing. And she successfully ran her bridal boutique for about 35 years. My dad was an accountant, but they were busy all the time. So in high school, I didn't do well. After high school, I went to the Marines, and I was in the Marines for 8 years. And while serving in the Marines, I kind of figured out that, due to my body type, since I'm a small dude, the whole physical thing was not my thing. So I went back to school for accounting, got into banking, was married 25 years. I've After I came here at 12, I've grown up in San Gabriel Valley my entire life. And I have a son that his name's Alejandro. He's 27, and my other son is 16. His name is Christian.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for your service. I was in the Marines as well. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. I was stationed here in Southern California, and I spent 6 months in Japan, and the rest of the time was in a little town called Tustin. The actual base is
Nice.
really not there anymore, but that's where I spent my time. So yeah, so thank you for your service, brother. I appreciate it.
Yes, well.
And all right, cool. So you've got two. You got an older son and then a 16-year-old, and you've got a 14-year-old. So you guys have been on this fatherhood journey for quite a while. And the reason that I wanted to do this show is really to help any of the single dads that might be out there kind of making things happen, not only being successful in their careers, but also, trying to make sure they're continuing to be intentional with their time with their kids. So first things first, let's talk, Alex, about you. You got a daughter now. How long were you and your daughter's mother together, or how did that relationship work?
Yeah. So moved to Coeur d'Alene from Hawaii. I was originally at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and after a semester, just wanted to actually play football again. And so I moved back to the mainland, moved to Coeur d'Alene because my older brother was here. And growing up in Montana, I have a lot of friends back in Montana, so would go visit. And one weekend while I was in Missoula, met Kiwi's mom, and we started dating, I think like May of '07. And we were together for 5 months before we found out baby was on the way. So really didn't know each other. We're both very, very young. And a majority of our relationship was actually, her being pregnant and us trying to navigate one, being kids and having to grow up really quickly. We were ultimately together 2 years. So when my daughter was 10 months old, we broke up, and her mom moved to Missoula, Montana. And so Missoula's about a 2.5 hour drive from Coeur d'Alene. So my daughter's been going back and forth
Hmm.
her entire life in terms of shared custody. So, um, yeah, we met at a party as college kids, and then just kind of we're thrust into parenthood very, very early. And, at the time it was really, really tough just because, 20, 21-year-old kid, you're wanting to, you know, be that kid, but I was changing diapers and, raising a baby and trying to navigate insurance and do all of that while my friends were out, partying and just being young
Right.
men. So, yeah, so it was 2 years, but it was also, um, it's one of the best things for me because I was kind of a lost soul and kind of bouncing around, as you heard. I went and played football at Mendocino College in Ukiah, California, and was just trying to find my way. And my daughter really forced me to sit down and entrench myself in one school, but two, a career, and start growing from there.
Hmm. Well, that's cool. I think I've got two guys on my show right now that are both single dads, and you guys come from two different ends of the spectrum. You were with your daughter's mother for a very short period of time, couple years, and you guys separated when she was very young. And then Ali was with his kid's mother for 25 years before you guys decided to go your separate ways. So Ali, for you, on that transition of going from, were you guys married or together? You guys are married?
Yes, we're married.
Okay.
I had met her when I was a senior in high school. She was a freshman in college.
Oh,
Then
cool.
we broke up. But when I went to the Marines, came back in between my service, and we ran into each other and started dating. And um, I had orders to go to embassy duty and two other high positions. And I told her, look, if we're gonna do something serious, let me know because I can accept those orders because I'll be gone for 3 years without even talking to my family.
Mm.
Yeah, we got married and we did it for 25. So we've known each other now probably about 30 years.
Hmm. Wow. All right. And then, so your kids are obviously older when you guys separated. What I want to ask both of you guys, because you guys come from two different sides of the spectrum as far as being with your partner. Like I said, Alex was, a shorter period of time. Ollie was a longer period of time. When it comes to dads out there, single dads in particular, what's the biggest challenge that you faced when you decided to go your separate ways from your spouse or your partner? And what advice could you give to dads that, are about to go through this transition where they're about to be a single dad, or maybe they're just become a single dad? So what was the biggest challenge and what advice would you give them? And I'll start with Alex on that topic.
And I think the biggest thing was not having total control, or at least knowing what was going on mom's side. And that's not to say that my daughter was in a precarious situation or a life-threatening situation, but just not knowing, what was going on the other side was really, really difficult for me. A lot of people with their partners can just kind of see what it's like to partner it in terms of raising your child. And so
Mhm.
I think for anybody who's going to become a single father or, is separating and going to be have a shared custody situation, the biggest thing is just realizing that you can't control the other side, and all you can do is control what you can control and raise your child and love them and do the best that you can while they're there, and make sure that you communicate with that, your ex, and try to be on the same page when it comes to raising your child, and keep that first. There's obviously breaking up, there's a lot of tension probably, and things that don't go well between the two of you, but keeping your child focused first and making that the first order of business versus any petty stuff, and just accepting that you can't control the entire process.
Mhm.
That's, and letting go a little bit. It's
Right.
super hard, but yeah.
Right. Awesome. How about you, Ollie?
I think that depending upon the age of the child or the children, like for example, Alex um, runs into different situations that I would, because my oldest was 21 and my youngest was like 11 or so. So obviously, for everybody involved, one of the things that you have to keep in mind, and this may sound cheesy or whatever, but life as you know it ends, and if you imagine how divorce impacts adults, um, it even if the kids show that they're doing well, it will definitely come out in the future. So if you have children that um, do know what's going on, um, therapy is really good because it helps out a
Mhm.
lot. And then you have to figure out how to be a well-balanced um, father and mother to an extent, because usually it's with mom that kids communicate. So communication becomes a bit of a challenge because it's just so much going on for them.
Right.
It's so yeah.
Yeah. I think for I'm not in that situation. My wife and I have been together for when we're just about to go over 26 years and being married. And it's, I think that the challenge that dads and moms, for that matter, even single moms, that the challenge that you face is really like what you talked about, Alex, as far as not being in control of what's going on the other side, right? Not knowing when your child's not with you and with your partner because it's their time to have the child or children. You don't know how they're being treated, and you don't know what they're being allowed or not allowed to do. And so that becomes kind of this struggle between the partners or the exes, right? When they're at my house, this is what I'm allowing them to do. When they're at your house, you're allowing them to do this. But trying to make sure that you guys are staying at least on some sort of level ground where you both have some sort of similarity in how you're going to parent the child, with guidelines, structure, discipline, things like that. That's super important. And
Mhm.
then, like what you were saying, Ollie, as far as really just understanding that your spouse and you have differences in how you raise your kids, and your boys in particular, they were older, obviously, but understanding that, hey, this is what has happened and we're going to find a way to make it work between the two of us. But this doesn't impact you. This shouldn't impact you in a negative way. Your
Right.
mom and I still love you, those kinds of things. Um, I think when I meet single dads, and I actually have single dads that I coach through my coaching program, that the biggest struggle that they face is trying to navigate not only their like the guys that I have are entrepreneurs. So not only trying to navigate their business, but also making sure that they're trying to be intentional with their time with their kids, because you guys are on set schedules, right? You guys have your children at a certain period of time during the week or during a weekend, and that's that. So you have to make sure that you're balancing your time. And that's something that you had alluded to, Ali, is about finding that balance, right? I completely believe that there's no such thing as balance. It's absolutely impossible to balance everything, because if you're focused in one area, something else is missing. or you're not paying enough attention to that other piece. So trying to actually give your attention to both things to find this balance, you'd have to give your attention to both those things at the same time, and it's impossible. So that balance isn't going to quite be there. However, we can minimize the disruption as much as possible by doing things like building in a structured schedule, things like that. And you guys seem to already kind of be in tune with that. I think that's one of the biggest things that my dads that I coach, in particular, are single dads that I coach, is that really trying to incorporate that schedule with their business and their kids. What was the was that something that you guys struggled with in the beginning? And I'll start with Ollie. Was that something that you struggled with in the beginning, really trying to find that balance between what you're doing for your career and still trying to make a living, but also making sure that you're being intentional with your boys?
So what I did, I didn't struggle much because I didn't date, and I haven't dated much, or not seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, and for me it's easier because, you know, when that happened, I told myself, you're not going to date until your son is 18, my youngest one, and I wait for college and things like that, because you know, whether a marriage is a failure of, you know, both parties or whatever, but you think, wow, you know, I screwed up that, I can't screw up the other stuff. So what I've done to balance you know, keeping that up is, you know, I don't date. I have friends that I'll go catch movies with and stuff like that, but as far as finding another partner and stuff, plus for me it's worked out okay, because after a divorce you need, you know, I would say at least 3 to 5 years to like kind of stabilize again, and, you know, emotionally, financially, everything else, and to like, you know, kind of clean out from all the bad habits. So it's worked out well for me. But I know that, you know, when somebody has, again, kind of like Alex, young kids and things like that, it's a little difficult. And the other stuff too, I didn't want to start dating because most women in our age have kids. And so now we're like really just taking time from everybody. And I felt that for me, I just wanted to, you know, give my time to my sons until they were, my youngest one was on his way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that I find that a lot of this even happens with single mothers, but I find that they think that that piece is missing, so they have to find a replacement as quick as possible because they have that they feel lonely or whatever the case may be. But I think you're right, Ollie, and how you're approaching it as far as, you know what, I'm not dating or I'm not getting into another serious relationship until my kids are adults and they're grown. And because your focus right now is your kids. Your focus right now is, number one, obviously you got to focus on your kids, and then you obviously have to worry about your career. You adding something else into the mix, like another, you know, a girlfriend or another spouse or anything along those lines, there's too much going on, and something's going to lose your attention, and it could be your kids. So really eliminating the potential impact that could have on your kids is important. So I appreciate that. How about you, Alex?
Yeah, so from a career perspective, my daughter's been with me essentially my entire journey. So she's seen me graduate with my associates, my bachelor's, and my master's. I had an 8-year career in higher education, and then I went 6.5 years into executive recruitment in banking, actually. And then I started in 2021 my own company called Alki Consultants. Alki, Alex, and then my daughter's nickname is Kiwi. So we kind of combined our names to start this company. So one thing that I've always prioritized throughout my career is my daughter, because I love to work. I love to grind and build things and progress my career, both educationally and financially. But one thing I told myself in the very beginning is, you know, if it's a weekend with my daughter or there's something going on for my daughter, you know, I got to shut off, and I've got to turn work off to be able to focus on her. It's not always been perfect, but it's always been intentional. And so I think that's super important. You know, my daughter and I have a very, very fluid, open communication relationship. I know that as a dad, I don't know everything that she does, but I would say I probably know 90 to 95% of her world. And I, I I know she feels comfortable to communicate with me in a way that I definitely didn't communicate with my parents because of our intentionality with the way that we interact, with how I've adjusted to the way that she's grown up. I mean, I think that's the hardest thing about being a parent is not being stuck in any one era of your child's life. You have
Mm,
to grow and change with them as they change, and your role changes. You're that parental survival unit, and then you have to kind of adapt into you're not needed as much anymore, but you're still needed. You're in the background, but that's a tough transition to make. But to your point, Bryan, is that, I mean, balance is a really hard thing to achieve, and whatever everyone's definition of that is different. But I think it's important to be, maybe it's not balance, maybe it's when you have something you're intentional about whatever you're
mm,
doing, whether that be your child or your work. So it's not easy. It's super hard, and especially sharing custody between with the distance that I have with my daughter. We have to be intentional and dedicate time, if not every day, at least every other day to each other to be able to just catch up and communicate. And so it's always been kind of an ebb and flow. And, you know, uh, Ali has a different journey than I do for sure. And I would say, dating and bringing other children into this equation is a very, very, very precarious situation that you just have to be careful about and intentional about. I think that's the theme of this answer is
right.
intent. Um, so for me, it's always my daughter's always number one, and anything I do is how's it going to affect anything else I do? How's it going to affect her? And that's not, affect is not a bad thing. It's just what does that change and how do we adapt and work through that situation, whether it be career, girlfriend, stepchildren, etc.
Mm, yeah, I love that. You're absolutely right. Intentionality is what's important when it comes to any area of our life. And that could be your kids, that could also be your business, that could also be you personally, your self-care.
Hmm.
Those areas when I am constantly encouraging fathers that when you're intentional with your time in that area, whatever it is that you want to be intentional with, whether it's you, your kids, your career, be intentional. That means be 100% in. If you're 100% in that area, today for the next hour, me and my son, we're going to do this. And for that hour, be intentional with your time with your child
Hmm.
because that sticks with them. If you're spending 15 minutes of that hour looking at your phone while you're trying to be intentional with them, that also sticks with them and they will
Yeah.
remember that. And
Yeah.
so the bond that you have with your daughter and the relationship that you guys have and the fact that she can come and talk to you and she understands that and that level of trust is there is a direct reflection of how she was raised and brought up. Because right now you said she's 13, 14,
She's
right?
14. Yeah.
14. So the way that she was brought up, not only from you, but also from her mother,
Hmm.
shows that yes, you guys both were intentional with your time with her and were focused on when it was just you and her, it was just you and her. There was
Hmm.
no interruptions. And that is not just for single dads or single moms. That's for any parent. That's
Hmm.
for any parent that's out there, whether you're in a relationship or not. So I always like to say, when you're intentional, be intentional. If you plan to make something work in an area of your life, it doesn't have to be with your kids. I'm saying it could be in any area, your business or your self-care. You take personally taking care of yourself, be intentional with it. And if you're doing those things, being intentional with your time in all the different areas of your life that you have to be intentional in, there will be a sense of balance because things will be smooth. They won't always be perfect, but they will be smooth and they will operate in that fashion, and your life will be much easier. So I think that's clearly what you guys have both been doing with your kids. I want to ask you this though: when it comes to for you, it's going to be a little different, Alex, but for Ollie, it's going to be a little bit more of an easier answer to give. But when you're talking about separating from your partner and the conversation that has to take place with your kids, for dads out there that are going through that, where they're about to get to the point where they have to sit down with their kids and say, hey, your mom and I are, we've decided that this just isn't working, but we both still love you. How does that conversation work? And I will ask you, Alex, even though your daughter was a lot younger, but I want to start with Ollie. How did that conversation work for you guys?
So, after my wife and I ended, we sat and we talked about it in this kind of tone of voice. There was, a lot of emotions and things like that. But, finally we decided, we spoke with our oldest son first. And we said, look, your mom and I, I've been talking about some things. We noticed that, for quite some time, we're not getting along. Long story short, we're not being the best that we could be. We're not happy together. And he actually, my oldest son, took it way harder than my youngest. So after we talked to him, he, was kind of like not having it. And we told him, son, this is, we want to be happy and we're just not happy together. Then we sat down with him and my youngest, and we kind of explained, the same thing that, mom and I, had talked, and we weren't making or being happy. And so we thought that going our own way would be better. And we've gotten along well, but so my oldest son, it took him like 3 years to really get over it. He because I initiated the divorce, and finally I told him, I said, son, you have to let this go. I said, you got to live your life, and, I have to live my life. You can't, and it was interesting as he was letting it go, then COVID hit. It was during that time. And then all that hit my youngest son a lot. And that's where he kind of went a little bit off the tracks. And so right now it's interesting, even though their mother she was engaged at once, and now she has a partner. We moved in together into the same house. Their mother is in the master bedroom, and my sons are upstairs. And I, redid the garage for the next 2 years until he graduates from high school, because we agreed that he was struggling and that he needed our help. And we told him, look, mom and I aren't getting back together, but we're going to live back together because we need to heal. And right now, Christian needs our help. And it's been difficult for her, because of her partner and stuff. But even to that extent, they see that their mother and I, and it's not perfect, because their mother, will get angry at me and stuff like that. But she has been amazing, and we try. And, the discussion was kind of the same way. We're just, look, it really wasn't nobody's fault. There was no, nothing out of the ordinary. We just super busy. The next thing we knew, we're like strangers to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's really great that you guys are, adult enough to live in the same household because of the negative impact that the separation had on your child. I think that's phenomenal. And obviously, the pandemic was terrible too.
Yeah.
But the fact that you guys said, listen, we're not going to be together, but to make sure that our boy is okay, we're gonna continue to live in the same house, or we're gonna live in the same house, so that way we can make sure he adjusts to this change, right or well. That's awesome. That's great that you guys did that. A lot of times when couples separate, it becomes hostile, it becomes negative, and to be honest, when you're talking about separating from your spouse and you guys become hostile with each other, you may think that you're getting, you're trying to hurt your spouse in a certain way, but it's really the only negative impact that it has. It doesn't have it on the spouse. It has it on the child. So understanding that, hey, I'm going to try to get back at my ex by doing this and this and this, because they did this to me. the child's going to feel that impact, and it's only going to hurt them in the long run. So the fact that you guys acknowledge that, hey, our boy is hurting, he's struggling, he's not accepting this right now, we need to help him heal and help him work through this and navigate through this. And if it means we have to live in the same house together and make this work, even though we're not together as a couple, we have to live in the same house together to help him heal. That you guys agreed to that, and things have been going fine. That's awesome. That's really a testament to the the mom and dad that he has. So that's great.
Yeah.
Alex, I know you're a little different because your daughter was much younger, so that conversation really didn't, I'm gonna guess, obviously didn't really happen. But as your daughter got older, trying to understand that, why are my parents not together? I have friends where their parents are together. Why are my mom and dad not together? Did that conversation ever come up?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One is I was the child on that side. Um, so I've seen this type of conversation before myself. And I think the biggest thing, I think like 11 or 12 when my parents divorced. My younger brother was 9. And so I think the biggest thing for me was when my parents did let us know that they were divorcing, we did have kind of a mediator, or someone who would represent us in the process that we were able to talk to. Plus, I have a really close family friend I consider my older brother that helped us, was a child psychologist too by trade, but helped us kind of work through this process. But the biggest thing for me was seeing my parents happy. And there's a level of tension when there are parents that are together that are not, don't need to be together. It's their relationship has run its course, and the children feel that anxiety. You don't necessarily know it's there, but there's a level of tension and anxiety. So to see my parents move out and move into their own places and move on with their lives and have other significant others and eventually remarry, but to see them happy was super important. And I think that was something I took myself into this relationship. There's a lot of societal pressure that says, hey, you got to stay together for the kids, got to stay together for the kids. And that, to me, that's not the right answer, because I don't want to be a bad example to my daughter and just say, well, I'm just going to accept this and be miserable. I think it's important for children to take hold of their lives and where they want to go and their happiness above all else. And so that was a big lesson for me when my daughter's mom and I broke up. Was the biggest thing is us being happy, and we weren't happy. So even though it's a big distance between the two of us, we'll make it work because our daughter, Kiwi's the most important thing. And so, yeah, Kiwi's had questions about that. Why aren't you together? What was going on? And so we've explained to her, we just weren't the right fit for each other, especially at that time in our lives. We were so young and thrust into parenthood so quickly. There was so much going on that it just didn't work out. But the biggest thing is understanding happiness and love, and those are the two biggest things. And I think Ali said this too, and I really respect him for it, as a dad, you got to eliminate your ego. And as a man, that's a really hard thing to do. And children humble you really quickly. But to eliminate your ego, to be able to operate in your child's best interest is key.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great bit of advice there, and just based on your experiences, the way that you and your partner, ex-partner, have come together kind of on the same team, right? Even though you guys aren't together, you guys still acknowledge that we're on the same team, trying to raise one person, have one goal in mind, and that's to help our daughter win or succeed in life. And so we have to be on the same page and on the same team in order to do that. And it seems that you guys are doing that now, and it's remarkable. It's clear that you and your spouse have, or you and your ex have, a good relationship, a strong enough relationship that you guys can talk to each other and work through things together, on the sense of one goal or one purpose, and that's to raise Kiwi and help her to be a great young lady. So
yeah, and Yeah, I mean, it feels perfect right now, but this is, my daughter's about to be 15, so this has been 14 years in the making,
Right.
and so for anybody who's about to go through this, all I can say is it does get better, but you just have to keep working at it because, there's a lot of healing that you have to do with your ex, and there's always that, like you mentioned, you don't want to put the baby in the middle, you don't want to put your kids in the middle. There is some animosity between you two, but you do have to let that go and keep your child. It's almost a business relationship at that point. Obviously, you want to
Mhm.
be cordial. The main goal is to raise your child, but it's also a work in progress. And much like earlier we were talking about intent, my ex and I have always been intentional, and we're at the point where, if Kiwi has a birthday party up here, she and her husband can come spend the night at my house. But it wasn't always like this. It takes
Mhm.
time, it takes healing. But if you guys keep going with your child with your child at the forefront of everything, then your relationship, you can become friends
Yeah,
and work
that's
together.
awesome. That's awesome. That's the best case scenario if you guys can't stay together is to eventually get to a point where you guys are friends and cordial enough to you guys even hang out with each other at
Hmm.
at various functions. So awesome. Well, listen, guys, thank you guys very much for joining me on this special Father's Day edition. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to learning more about you guys and continuing to follow your guys' journeys. So I'm looking forward to growing our friendship. But I just want to say thank you to both of you for not only agreeing to be on the episode, but also talking about your experiences and the person that you are and have become to help your kids. So really appreciate from both you guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for having us, Brian.
Yeah,
Nice meeting you, Alex.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let me do this real quick before I let you guys go. Alex, if there are viewers out there that want to talk to you or learn a little bit more about you, what's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, you can go to my website, which is www.alkiconsultants.com. Alki is ALKI, or I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Would love to talk and help either from a recruiting standpoint or a dad standpoint.
Awesome. And how about you, Ollie? Best place for my viewers or listeners to look you up, learn a little bit more about you.
Sure. I have my profile on LinkedIn. Ali, Ali, Sanabria, Sanabria.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure I put all that stuff in the show notes. But again, thank you guys very much for being on. I hope you guys have an awesome, awesome Father's Day. And I'm looking forward to continuing to grow our friendships. So thank you guys. Hey guys, this has been another episode of Dad Up. Just want to thank you again, my two good friends, Alex and Ollie, for being on the show, both with A's in their names. So it's a little tongue twister. But I wanted to wish all my dads out there a very happy Father's Day. And we talked a lot about the different things when it comes to how we're raising our kids as far as being a single dads, how we're raising our kids and really being intentional with our kids. So today is Father's Day. Today is your day, but still focus on being intentional with your kids because they're going to try to make your day special today. They're going to try to make you feel great. So make sure you're being intentional with them. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Alex or Ollie, please make sure you guys click the links in the show notes and you can find out a little bit more about them. But as always, like I say, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.